What's up everybody, welcome back to Water Warrior Fishing. If this is the first time you guys have seen a video of mine, be sure to hit that subscribe button. If you guys are returning for another video, thank you and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the Humminbird Helix 7, this beautiful unit right here that my girlfriend Tina bought me for Christmas. Shout out to you, honey. Today we're just strictly talking about the install and how to get this thing on the boat and working. And I'm working with a 14-foot aluminum John boat. So let's get to it. Alright guys, so let's talk about transducer installation. It's the most important part. It needs to be perfect or else you're not going to get a good signal. So let's pretend that this table is the transom, okay? If you install your transducer bracket directly to the transom and you do it in an incorrect location, you're going to have to chisel this thing off, or whatever you're going to have to do, you're going to have to remove it and it's going to be messy. Here's the solution. You take a 3/4 inch piece of lumber, then I'm going to cut it 3 by 5 or so, and then this transducer bracket will be drilled with 2 screws into that wooden block. But the advantage of this is if I mess up on installing this bracket the first time, I can take these screws out that I'm going to install and I can move it. There we are, we've got our block. So I use that real tough grit sandpaper. It shaved that down real nicely, so I've got smooth edges all around. Alright guys, so we've got that painted, and then I'm gonna clear coat with a 2-part epoxy resin. So once it's clear coated, I'll get back with you and then we'll continue on. Alright, so that's step 1, guys. I'll get back to you in about 24 hours after that epoxy cures. It's been about 4 days since I did that stern saver block. I coated it with way too much epoxy so it never dried completely. So I had to do it again. Not necessary, but adds a little flavor to it. And I'm gonna run you through how to put that guy on and the transducer and everything else you need to do. First, let's start with the mounting head. I've got what's called a ram mount. It's a really efficient mount if you want to be able to swivel your unit. The Humminbird Helix 7 comes with a stationary mount. Doesn't come with this ball here, so you can't turn the unit as you need. So get yourself a ram mount. We're gonna start with that. I already had a pre-drilled hole from my last unit, so I'm just gonna use this as a centering point. And this already has pre-drilled slots for you to put your screws in. Very versatile spot right in the middle of the boat. And that's held in by 1, 2, 3, 5 screws, 5 bolts, and some washers. All right, so the next most important step would be to have your wiring done. So I'm no expert, but all you need is some butt connectors, crimper, and some electrical tape. I've connected all the wiring, and then you need a 3-amp fuse. That's what's recommended for basically all of the Humminbird units. So I've got an inline fuse there. We got some terminals on there, and we're just gonna run this from the head to the back. And a good method if you've got a ribbed John boat or an aluminum boat is to wire this in a way that's removable, so it's not too permanent, so you don't have to like fuss with it if you ever wanna remove it. So the thing that I do to organize the wiring is to put it behind the ribs. And head towards your battery by going behind those ribs right there. So I ran that wiring from the head unit and then back along the side here. All right, so let's organize this mess. We're gonna tuck this up behind that and zip tie the wiring to this L bracket right here. So it's out of the way, it's real clean, it's plugged in, bada bing. And now just to the transducer, let's do it. I have to measure the plumb line in order to align the beads on the transducer. So let me show you what I'm doing here. So what it says to do is to grab a 12-inch long string and attach a weight to it. Hold it just right there at the end of the transom. And you're gonna measure the distance between your transom and that weight as soon as it gets hanging straight and still. The measurement on my transom is 2 3/8 inches, so that means I gotta put my bead on number 3. It's aligned there, so hopefully that's right. Those are just one of the steps that you wouldn't think to do if you were doing this independently, so make sure you're like looking at the installation guide. I hate directions too, but this is a necessary evil. Now I'm just trying to figure out a good position for this stern saver block and my bracket. Make sure you're keeping it level with the bottom. You don't want it protruding, but that's that. So now all we got to do is glue this to the transom. All right, and we're almost done, guys, but that's a homemade stern saver. My logo is blocked off a little bit, but whatever, still sexy. The instructions say to put the transducer 15 inches from your propeller. I don't want it too close to the edge because that's where a lot of turbulence is. So it's probably going to be more like right here. To make this area suitable for the block I'm putting here, we're going to have to scrub it down. We're going to have to make it nice and clean so it adheres to the boat as well as possible. So for this project, I use what's called life caulk. It's really good if you want to take off the mount in the future. You can just chip it right off. You can see it kind of poking out of the seams, and once it dries, you can sand it and paint it and all that. You've got to let this cure, okay? Let it get dry enough to where it's stable and it won't move at all, even with a lot of pressure. Then what I'm going to have to do is go back and caulk these seams. But that's pretty much done, so we're gonna let that chill. I thought I could finish this all in one day, but because I need to let that caulk dry on the stern saver, we're gonna have to come back tomorrow. So I came back the next day, I filmed that last step of putting the transducer onto the bracket and lost all of the footage somehow, so I'm back. Before I left, I had left this uncaulked, so I came back and I used this life caulk to get these seams covered so that no water can get in behind that block and pry it off over time. That's real important. Before I left the other day, I had this bracket on and nothing else. So all you need to do is, it's self-explanatory, you just pop that in there into the bracket, put the bolt through and the nut, tighten it down to the setting that's most appropriate for your boat. Make sure that this line right there on the side of your transducer is completely level with the bottom of the boat. So you can see that it's perfectly level. So that just ensures that your transducer gives you a direct signal to the bottom of the lake and right back into the unit. And the only other step you need to do is run the transducer cord to the head of the unit, which I've done here by securing it with zip ties. There you are. I wired it the same exact way I ran the power cord. I ran them together in unison up to the head where the ram mount is. The result should be bam, both of your cords are there, ready to be plugged into the unit, and it's ready to go. So that basically concludes a full installation of a Humminbird Helix 7 unit, and you can apply these principles to pretty much any unit, Humminbird, Lowrance, whatever you decide to get. Make sure you've got your installation guide for all of those little details that I was showing you. It'll give you a better direct explanation than I can through the video. Everybody's boat is different, so make sure you're paying attention to the directions as well as you can. Hopefully this video helped you guys out a lot. This was my first install. If you like what you saw today, subscribe, hit that like button, and thank you for all of your support. See you on the next Water Warrior Fishing.